Okay, at first glance, it may be difficult for you to notice it as its color is white. But if we hover over this area, you will be able to see the hamburger menu. It is basically a navigation bar. When you click on it, a sidebar or the drawer opens up and you can put images, other navigations, offers, or something else inside it. So, yeah, it is the default icon of the hamburger menu that comes up. You can definitely change it by going to the leading property of the app bar. However, we are not going to change the icon as the hamburger looks cool. What we are gonna do is change the theme of the icon. We will fully get into themes at the end of this module. So now I'm just showing you the basics. We need to focus on a property called icon theme first. It basically sets the theme data of all the icons in the app bar so that we don't have to write the colors and all for every single icon we create. Let's say you have 5 icons and you made all of them black, but you want one of them to be blue. In such a case, you can write the property inside the specific icon and the theme data will be overwritten. You have to admit that it will help us a lot. So let me write theme data and specify its size. I'm gonna set it to 25.0. Then I am going to give it a color of colors.black. Let's run it once again to check how it looks. Let's wait a moment. And here you can see the hamburger menu clearly. The size is perfect and so is the position. Now our plan is to animate the home or tab sweep widget. So basically what we want to do is make the home button highlighted and underlined when we hover our mouse over it. Let's get started then. Go to the components file. And at first, we are going to wrap the text with a widget called mouse region. Then we're gonna create a bool variable called isSelected, whose default value will be false. So the mouse region widget basically detects the mouse position when the cursor hovers over it. You can see there are many properties. For example, the onEnter and onExit properties accept a function that will execute some tasks. So the way we want to use these functions is that as soon as the mouse enters the widget, the function in onEnter will change the text appearance and the function in onExit property will be reverted back. Now let's head over to onEnter, which will accept a function. So give it brackets. Then we need to use the setState to change the isSelected variable to true. We are going to focus on the variable later on while using the animation widget. So it's showing an issue over here because the property onEnter needs to have a function with a parameter. It means that it needs to return a pointer enter event. Let's give it a parameter then. It can be just a simple underscore as the variable, I am not gonna attach much importance to the name as we won't be using this variable. Let me go ahead and type on exit. We're gonna give it a function with underscore and brackets. Now use the set state and give isSelected a false value. This is exactly how we detect when our mouse enters or exits the widget. Let's try out a quick demo. Let me write a print statement which is going to print entered inside the onEnter function. Also print exit in the onExit function. Now let me stop and start the application and open the Android Studio and Chrome side by side in order to see the console. I guess we made the screen too small, that's why the mobile landing page is showing right now. Well, as you remember, the width less than 800 redirects us to the mobile page. To solve this problem, we just need to increase the width a bit and yeah, now we have the landing web page. Now, if you observe carefully, whenever I hover my mouse over the home text, entered gets printed, and when I exit from it, exit is printed. You can see that it works quite well. The next task will be to do an animation. First, let me hide the print lines. I am gonna go ahead and wrap the text widget with an animated default text style widget. Then it's necessary to focus on the duration, which sets the time of the appearance of our animation. That's why I'm going to write const duration and set the time to 100 milliseconds. When it comes to the style part, it will have two styles. Whenever isSelected is true, the first style will be there, and whenever isSelected variable is false, another style will show up. The animation will be handled by the widget itself. Now, let me put a question mark, which means that if isSelected is true, a task must be performed. This way of writing a conditional statement is called a ternary operator. Let's head over to the Dart pad and see a detailed explanation of ternary operators. I am gonna create a new variable here and give it a value 0. Then I am gonna create another variable called b with a value 0 as well. Now we can print it. Observe this statement carefully. If a is greater than b question mark, then 1:2. So it means that if a greater than b is true, then print 1 or else print 2. Let me run it. And you can see 2 got printed here as the statement a greater than b is obviously false. Both of them are equal. Let's change the value of b to 2 and then run it. Right now, you can see that we got the exact same result as before. In this case, the if-else statement would be really long. So when we have the possibility to use a ternary operator, we should definitely do it in order to write a smaller number of the lines of code. So if isSelected is true, that means that the mouse is hovering over the widget. We need to have a particular type of text style to show that the mouse is hovering. But before that, let me delete the text style from here. Now I am gonna write googlefonts.oswald. Then give it a font size of 25.0 and the color of colors.black. Well, I want it to be underlined, so I have to use the decoration property and write text decoration dot underline. I am gonna head over to decoration thickness and give it 1. Also, the decoration color should be colors.black. Let's give it a colon and set the text style for the time when the mouse is not hovering. Just write googlefonts.oswald and simply put the black color, then the font size of 23.0, and that's it. Let's go ahead and run it to see how it looks. If restarting the app takes too much time, try to stop and start the web app again. It's here! Now focus. Whenever I hover my mouse over the text, it becomes underlined and a bit larger. You can also notice a bit of animation going on here. This animation is done entirely by the animated default text style widget. Of course, if we just have swapped the text widgets without enclosing them by the animated widget, we wouldn't be able to get this current transition/animation. But remember that we might also do the animation without the animated default text style widget. Instead, we can always create our own custom widget, and it's not hard to do it. There is also a type of transition in play between the two text styles. We have to tap into the curve property and write curves dot and select a different transition type from here. I am going to keep it as elastic in. And let's restart the app. Wait a second. Here it is. So now you've probably noticed that the white space between the underline and the text is very small and looks quite ugly. Therefore, I am going to increase the space between them, but it's not going to be that straightforward. The solution which I'm gonna provide is actually pretty clever. So let's go ahead and open the Android Studio. The first code which we're going to change is the font color. I need to make it transparent. And you might think, why on earth would we do that? Don't we want to see where the font is after running the app? The smart part comes here. We are now going to put shadows behind the text and change its position so that the shadow will look like it's the actual text and we will eventually increase the space between the text and the underline. Let's write shadows then. They accept a list of shadow. We should set its color as black, and we're gonna use the offset property to change the position of the text. Let me explain what offset is. So it's basically setting the position of a widget based on the X and Y axis. Simple, isn't it? If we write 0, 2, it means that 0 lies on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. Well, what I am gonna do now is write offset, put 0 on the x-axis, and -10 on the y-axis. Give a comma, another one, reformat it, and run it. Let's wait a few seconds. Here it is. The space has increased and it looks really amazing. But maybe the gap is too big. Let's decrease the offset to -8. And now it should be perfect. It certainly is perfect. Okay, at this point we have to head back to the landing page and add the rest of the tabs. Works, and then blog, about, and finally contact. Let's run it. Wait a second. And it appeared, but the spaces are not placed properly. So it's time to introduce a widget called spacer. As you remember, in rows and columns, we have the main axis and the cross alignment to align widgets. But if we want them more customized, we can make use of spacer. It basically adds a certain amount of space in between widgets. So let's add it everywhere under our tabs. Just like this. Restart it. And you will find out that the widgets are spaced. But what if I want to increase the space before home? To do that, I am gonna use the flex property in spacer. By default, the space property is 1, and here I am gonna change it to 3. And let me reload the app. Now you can see that the white space has increased and it looks a lot better now. You can also observe that the spaces are responsive, which means that they change with the size of the device. Pretty amazing, right? The next part will consist of adding the body to our app. First things first, let's put an image. So I'm going to write circle avatar here, and in the child, I am going to write image.asset and give it the name of the file. When you restart it, of course, you will get the image, but it won't be perfect. As you can see just now, a part of my body is placed outside the circle avatar, and that's not acceptable. So instead of having a child, we are going to use the property background image, which will put the image as the background and our picture will fit in this circle avatar. Okay, the property accepts an image provider, therefore we have to write asset image and give it the image path. Then let's restart the app. Wait a second as always. And voila! The image is inside the circle avatar. Now let's go ahead and increase the radius to 100 so that we can see everything clearly. As I have told you earlier, I have removed the background of the image, which you obviously don't need to do. That's why in my case the default blue background showed up. So let me change the background color and I'm gonna change it to white. Looks better, doesn't it? I would also like to add some border to the circle avatar. It's very easy to do that. I'm just gonna wrap the current circle avatar with another circle avatar and give it a radius of 103. I want to give it a background color of colors.black as well. Then let's see if it looks fine. And here it is. I really like it, but why not change the position of the image inside its border? Well, for this reason, I cropped the image earlier to put it directly over here. So what I need to do now is just change the path, and that means that I have to write circle right here. Let's see what comes up. And the image is perfectly positioned.